I remember the moment I was scrolling through a handful of budget wine coolers, convinced that I could snag a cheap unit for under $100, only to find out later that the thing barely chilled a single bottle, and the glass door fogged up after the first night. That kind of buyer's remorse is why I'm hesitant to recommend a bargain without doing a deeper dive first. Link is in the description if you want to check the product details on Amazon, and in this video, I'll walk you through why the CaLefort 24-inch dual-zone bundle might actually feel like a smarter buy for home by enthusiasts who want more than just a single shelf of wine. First off, the biggest question people ask when they see a 2-unit bundle is, do I really need 2 separate fridges? Or am I just paying extra for the packaging? The answer hinges on your drinking habits. If you entertain regularly and your guests expect a range of reds, whites, and maybe a few craft beers or sodas, having 2 zones, one set to 40-65 for wine and another slightly warmer 34-65 for cans lets you keep everything at the right temperature without cross-contamination of odors. That's a real advantage over the one-zone models that either force you to choose between wine and beer or require you to constantly shuffle items around. From a practical standpoint, the dual-zone system is surprisingly straightforward. Each unit has its own temperature dial, so you can set the left side to 55 for a light Pinot Noir, while the right side sits at 40 for a crisp lager. I've actually tried that setup during a weekend brunch where I paired a rose with a batch of hard cider, and the water didn't taste stale at all, something that happens when you tumble a bottle of white into a cramped single-zone cooler that's been sitting at 38 for weeks. The ability to keep wine at cellar-like temperatures while still having a dedicated spot for cans means you avoid the dreaded wine sweat that can happen when a fridge is overloaded with both. Space is another area where the CaLefort shines or falls short, depending on your kitchen layout. Each unit measures 24 inches wide, which is a common width for under-counter installations, but the depth is a bit deeper than a typical dishwasher. If you're planning a built-in configuration, you'll need to make sure there's at least an inch of clearance behind the unit for ventilation. On the other hand, the front-vented design with a glass door makes it easy to use as a freestanding bar centerpiece. You can push it against a wall or place it on a sturdy kitchen island without worrying about airflow. I placed one of the units on a pantry countertop and the other behind the stove, and both ran quietly, no humming that would drown out conversation. Now, I want to address the real question: does the bundle justify its price? The headline specs 52 bottles and 220 cans capacity across 2 units sound massive, but the actual usable space can be a bit deceptive. The wine racks are a set of horizontal shelves that hold about 10 bottles each, which means you'll fill the 52-bottle claim pretty quickly if you have larger bottles or want to store wine boxes. The can storage is a grid of slots that fit standard 12-ounce cans perfectly, but if you favor larger craft cans or soda bottles, you'll find yourself stacking them on top of each other, which reduces airflow. In my own usage, I kept the bulk of my red wine collection in the left unit, a few whites in the right, and used the bottom shelf of each for a rotating selection of summer ales. It worked, but it required a little bit of planning, something you won't see on a spec sheet. One practical weakness that catches people off guard is the lighting. The 3-color LED system lets you switch between cool white, warm amber, and a subtle blue. While it looks great for a photoop, the blue setting can actually make the wine appear darker, which can be misleading when you're trying to assess a bottle's color before serving. I found the warm amber mode the most useful for evening gatherings because it adds a cozy ambience without obscuring the label. That said, the lighting does add a touch of extra power draw, which could be a factor if you're trying to keep your electricity bill low. If you're considering this bundle, think about your beverage routine. A family that drinks a few bottles of wine on weekends, but also stocks a variety of craft beers, kombucha, and perhaps some sparkling water will get the most out of the dual-zone feature. The ability to keep cans at a slightly higher temperature prevents them from becoming overly carbonated, a subtle but noticeable difference when you crack open a cold brew after a long day. Conversely, if you're a solo drinker who only needs space for a handful of bottles, A single-zone wine cooler will likely be more cost-effective and take up less room. Another point worth noting is the glass door's UV protection. Many cheap units use simple acrylic that can let in light.